Hi, Lizzie. Well, nice to meet you.
Hello.
I've already
Same
said your
here.
name. Yes, thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming to do this, and I
You're
hope
welcome.
you're doing
Sure.
well yourself. Okay. So quickly, can you just introduce yourself to my subscribers so they know who you are and all of that?
Okay. Hello. My name is Lizzie Oyeni. I am from Akwa Ibom State. Although my surname says Yoruba, that's because I'm married to an Osho person. I'm from Nigeria, of course, as you all know. I'm a passionate teacher. I started my teaching career way back when I just shortly after I left, I finished secondary school, and I have
Wow.
really been on it, growing and developing in at different levels, and
Mm.
to the glory of God, I'm here now.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Oh, wow. Good. Thank God. Just can you give us a brief background about yourself? Well, I mean, not yourself, but your teaching career, because I just heard you said you finished and you went straight into teaching. So can you tell us like how long have you been teaching and all of that?
Oh, okay. So to be precise, I finished secondary. I left secondary school at year 2000, and just a few months later I started teaching in one nursery and primary school around my home area, of course way back in Nigeria. And I was earning peanuts then, but because I just knew that there was something in me who was really particular about just impacting on young children, so I didn't even mind. I think my first salary was, I think, about 5,000 then. I was taking it in good faith, you know. And afterwards, I then ventured. I enrolled for NCE. So during my NCE stage, I was still working because my NCE was basically part time. So weekends I go to work, and then during the week sorry, weekends I go to school for lectures, and then during the week I work. So whatever I'm able to put together, I was just pushing myself, through school.
Mm,
And then
mm,
when I finished NCE, the course that I took at my NCE, the course I was offered was math. And I knew that when I was in secondary school, I was never a lover of math. So I tried to run away from it. But when I spoke to my elder brother, that was the turning point of my life anyway. When I spoke to my elder brother that they offered me computer mathematics, and me and for mathematics, I am it's a no-go area for me. I do not like mathematics. And then my brother told me one particular thing. He said to me, he said that's the more reason why you need to pick it up as a challenge. That subject that you see as a a giant, you need to face it. That's the other, because the other option I was given was integrated science mathematics. And so he said to me that you hear it out. How does it sound? Integrated science mathematics. That it doesn't, go really well. That
yeah,
why not go for
yeah,
computer mathematics? So I now, and
yeah.
then that was it. So I just went ahead. I ran the course. And to the glory of God, I was surprised. In my
Wow.
first year during NC, I do recall that because I took it as, something that I really wanted to overcome. My nickname was trigonometry in school. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why were they calling
Trigonometry.
me? Yes, they were calling me trigonometry. I remember very well, and that was because I was beginning to groom myself. Aside from attending lectures, when I go back home, I will buy textbooks. I would, do personal study. And that was how I fell in love with mathematics. That was
Mm,
a giant, something I saw as like something
mm,
I would never know when I was in secondary school. And then afterwards, when I
mm,
finished my NC, I
mm,
was still, of course, I had swapped my workplace. I was still teaching
mm,
though, but I was collecting, I
mm,
think, 12,000 naira. And
mm,
why? Because I had fallen in love with mathematics. When I went to the
mm,
second school where I thought, I just knew that there was something really wrong. I was beginning to feel very uncomfortable with the way
mm,
the children were doing. And so
mm,
I spoke to the proprietress that I'm not comfortable with the way these children, the year six children you gave me to take, they're so poor in mathematics. I wonder how they were able to scale through primary one, primary two, and then they don't even know five times four, and they
mm,
want to sit for common entrance. And so that was
mm,
when I started itching for something better, really, because I
mm,
knew that there was something wrong, with our educational system. And then I knew that
mm,
I could give more with the little I was
mm,
taking. I was beginning to itch. So what I did was
mm,
I resigned from that job. So when I
mhm,
resigned, I sat at home for a few months, and guess what I did? The
mm,
little qualification I had to channel it to British schools, big schools. I was
wow.
very, 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 particular about schools schools on the island. I would just
Mm,
go browse school in Ikoyi, school in VI, and thankfully,
mm,
imagine I was collecting 12,000 naira at NCO level. The very moment I started to think that I could gain more because of my competency in mathematics,
mm,
the very first job I got in I was
mm.
offered 70,000 naira. You can
Wow,
imagine the
wow,
gap.
wow.
Yes,
A
from
big
12,000
jump.
naira to 70,000 naira. A big
Wow.
jump. When I went for the interview, I do remember well that when they asked me that how much would I collect, that how much am
Yeah.
I looking at? I someone who was collecting 12,000 naira. I
Impossible.
remember telling the woman that I think 30,000 naira will be fine, and then she was like, "No, we won't give you such."
Wow.
Yeah. And so she said to me that I think on their minimum skill for a starter is 70,000 naira. So they placed me on 70,000 naira. I was like,
Mm,
you mean
wow.
I can collect 70,000 naira? That was when I started adding value to
Wow.
my teaching career.
Mm, mm,
Yeah. So
mm.
it was a British
Wow.
school where they were taught pure EYFS. EYFS means early years foundation stage. So the
Mm-hmm.
practices were different from
Mm,
way back where I was coming from at Egbeda. A lot of things started changing. My orientation, my mindset. I started taking lots of CPD courses
mm,
online. You know, and so that was
mm,
it. That was it, basically. Yeah,
wow.
and yeah, that was where I started falling in love with, you know, teaching at higher levels. I
Mm,
later resigned. I left the school. I was
mm.
just, yearning for
Wanting for
something
more.
higher, something.
Mm,
Yeah, wanting for more
mm,
experience, exposure. You know, and
mm,
that was it. That
mm.
was really the turning point in my life. I didn't have,
Wow.
yeah, I had siblings who were encouraging me, but
Mm,
the push was from within me. I was the one
mm,
pushing myself all through. I had
mm,
limitations, while I was growing up. A lot.
mm,
I did not want to, go into that. But I had
mm,
limitations that would have really put me down. But I
mm,
didn't let all those limitations put me down. I just forged that
mm,
head that no, I could actually get there.
mm. Well, that's a lot of
Yeah.
perseverance, you know. Nothing good comes
Yeah.
easy. You have to work really,
Nothing.
really hard, yeah, to get what
Yes,
you want,
yes,
isn't
yes,
it? Wow, that's such an amazing
yes.
story. Such an amazing story.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mama. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So you mentioned that when you were teaching the British schools, you were probably
Yeah.
in the EYFS. So this is like the
Yeah.
preschool sort of nursery sort of stage.
Yeah, yeah,
Now,
please.
I
Yeah.
know that you've left Nigeria. So at the moment,
Yes.
you're not in Nigeria. So can you just
Yeah.
give us a brief understanding of what you're doing at the moment and where you are at the moment?
Okay. Okay. That's I don't know. I talk a lot, so you are going to permit me.
Feel free, please feel free to talk. I'm just going to listen. Just feel
uh,
free to talk,
okay.
please.
So the thing I like to encourage people.
Mm,
You know, you see, in life, where you if you do not push yourself personally, you would be amazed that a lot of people will applaud you on the level at the ground level where
mm,
you still stay. Nobody's
mm,
ready to push you. So you
True.
have to recognize that and pick
Mm.
yourself up and just say to yourself that no, I cannot remain at this level.
Mm.
Okay, so before it's not long. I've not been in Nigeria for too long anyway. Yeah, I've not left Nigeria for too long,
Mm.
But before I left, I was actually, doing something very impactful,
Mm.
and I would say that I was a school owner before I
Oh
left
wow.
Nigeria.
Oh
Yes.
wow. So you
So
left from so you went from teaching to become a school
y-
owner.
yes, yes.
Oh
Okay,
wow.
so
Amazing.
the last school where I was employed, where I taught, I was employed as a teaching assistant. I worked
Mm.
there for 5 years plus. That is Lagos Preparatory School. It's in Ikoyi. That's where I worked. And I resigned as a teaching assistant. So before I resigned, I had this passion of, yeah, as a teaching assistant, what you do is there's a class teacher,
Mm.
that's
Mm.
super that is superior to you in the class. But I just knew
Mm.
that I could impact more on the children. That was the only drive I had.
Mm.
So there were
Mm.
times when I just, even when you have, the better approach to give, but because you have a class teacher that is superior to you in the class, you just have to
Mm.
swallow, whatever
Mm.
it is idea you have, and then your techniques and whatever, because yes, the person wants to take
Mm.
charge.
Mm.
So I started having that that motivation that no, I needed
Mm.
to impact more.
Mm.
That was one thing that made me resign at
Mhm.
Lagos Preparatory School to set up
Mm.
a small school of my own where I could impact more. And of course, I
Mm.
had two young children. One was,
Okay.
they were really growing, they were still in the
Mm.
early years. So I just felt
Mm.
that, yes, what I was giving out in the British school, to those big men children, my
Mm.
children also needed to, start having them. I needed to impact on my children. And so I
Mm.
resigned to be precise, I resigned in 2020,
Okay. Okay. That's
and
not
I was
long.
able to raise funds. My brother, I had a sibling. I had
Mm.
an elder sibling who supported me financially, and I was able to put up something small. I set up the school, and
Mm.
I was amazed because the way
Mm.
the population grew, really,
Mm.
really amazed me. Within the
Mm.
space of 2 years,
Mm.
I was able to grow the population of the small school I was running from
Mm.
3 to
Mm.
over 50.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
over 50 children,
Hmm.
yes. And that was because I wasn't charging much. I
Okay.
would call it a low cost school,
Mm.
but the way I was doing it, the
Mm.
setting, the things,
Mm.
I was able to bring in my little experience from the British schools that I had taught in,
Mm.
into the
Mm.
small local school. And then people were so
Mm.
appreciating it. Children were blossoming,
Mm.
children were doing really well. Yeah,
Mm.
but the pay wasn't really, because I was running it in a rented apartment. So the pay,
Okay.
what was coming in for me wasn't so good. It
Mm.
was so draining. So that was when
Mm.
I started saying to myself that no, I think I just, and then of course the economic situation in Nigeria, something
Mm.
started. I started having this yearning just
Mm.
last year. That's year 2023. I started having this longing for leaving Nigeria, leaving
Mm.
Nigeria, and that was how the whole thing started.
Okay.
So prior to me leaving Nigeria, I started making moves. I
Mm.
like to say this to people: that when you're looking for opportunities, prepare for it. Do not
Mm.
wait for the opportunities to surface
Exactly.
before you say,
Exactly.
oh, let me grab it. No. If you're not
Mm.
prepared for certain opportunities, it might elude you when it shows up.
Exactly. Mm.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I didn't have any job in
Mm.
view. I didn't have
Mhm.
anything. I didn't have anybody, no link, no nothing. So what I did was, first thing, I processed
Mm.
my passport.
Mhm.
After I did process my passport,
Mm.
there's this QTS thing that came up that yes,
Mm.
teachers, international teachers could gain the qualified teacher status to teach in the UK,
Mhm.
and I said to myself, that was it. I was going to get it. So
Okay.
I also went ahead. I
Mhm.
processed my QTS. Of course,
Mhm.
my degree qualification, I added already. I studied
Mhm.
mathematics, that's math
Mhm.
education at University
Okay.
of Lagos. So I went
Okay.
ahead. I also applied for the QTS. So when I applied for the QTS, the
Mm.
gist I heard was that yeah, it usually takes a long period before you can be
Mm.
awarded the QTS.
Mm.
So I was like, well, that's not for me.
Mm.
So after I applied for my QTS, I started sourcing for jobs
So
online.
how long did your, let me
So
just cut you short. How long did your QTS take for it to arrive? And you
ele-
said
ele-
so, so this NCE, so it's basically you had a teacher qualification from Nigeria anyway.
yes,
So how
yes,
long did yours take you? Because this is a question I get so much on my channel. People say, "Oh, I've applied, mine is not coming, it's taking forever." And I keep saying to them, just wait. But
just
and I
wait.
also had to write the QTS body to find
Okay,
out. Look, Nigerians are complaining, especially Nigerians, because the Ghanaians friends that I have, they say theirs don't take long. So I had to write to the QTS body and I said, why is it? Please, can you explain to me why is Nigerian
okay.
QTS taking long to come?
Take it so long.
What's the wait time like? And they
Yeah,
replied, of course, as you know, they reply with a generic reply
the,
anyway. So the person replied me and said, they treat
the
everybody
long
fairly, so
queue.
they're taking time to go
Exactly.
through every application and all of that. So I just want to know now, this is a Nigerian because I've done this with several Ghanaians, but not really with a Nigerian. And that's why I was so grateful when I met you and I said, please, can you do this? Because I really want to hear a Nigerian perspective of this whole thing. So how long did it take you to get your QTS when you applied?
Thank you very much, Boma. My kid, I waited for about 11 months before my QTS came.
Okay. Okay.
Because but the
Okay.
amazing, yeah, but amazing thing about my QTS was that I had a delay initially when I applied for my QTS. You know, I started the application in February, no
Mm-hmm.
March, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to rest. That was when I felt I had visited the TRCN office and they said to me that yes, my letter of operational standing had been sent to gov.uk. So I just went to rest.
Mm-hmm.
2 months
Okay.
later, I
Mm-hmm.
received an email from the gov.uk that they were still waiting for my teaching body in Nigeria to send my letter of operational standing. And I'm like, what's going on? So that was in May. So March,
Mm-hmm.
April, May. So it means as of May, my QTS, my letter of professional standing had not been sent to the UK. So I had to run to TRC and that what is going on? So they not knowing that they just there was this nonchalant behavior that just made them skip, my own letter and they just didn't do anything about it. So I think towards the end of May, that was when my QTS, my letter of professional standing was sent across. And then I got a confirmation um, email acknowledging
Okay.
that, yes, that they had received my letter of professional standing. So if I'm going
Okay.
to do a calculation of when I started, I will want
Mm.
to cut off because when the real processing starts is when they receive your letter of professional standing from your teaching body here in Nigeria, there in
Okay.
Nigeria, which
Okay.
is the
Okay.
TRCN. So from May to
Mhm.
January. Can you do
Mhm.
yeah? So I think that's about
Yeah. 9
December, then
months.
January, nine,
Mhm.
nine. So, but I like to say, okay, I started in March, so it didn't. I didn't get it until say 11 months. About
eight
that,
months. 8 months. So
yeah,
if you then add the remaining 8 months, so if you then add the remaining 3 months, 2 months, that you did first starting didn't go, so that's 10 months.
yeah. So that's how long I waited.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
how long I waited
So the
for the
advice will
QTS.
be for people who are asking. So the advice
Just
would be first
wait.
of all to check to make sure that your professional standing letter has gone through first of
Has
all,
gone. Yes. You don't relent
because
until you receive you don't
mm,
relent until you receive your acknowledgement email from the
mm,
gov.uk that your letter
mm,
of professional standing has been received by
okay,
them.
okay,
And that's why
okay,
you say, okay, then
that's
you
very
can go to
important.
rest. I'm just waiting.
Mm.
Very important.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on then. So you
Yeah,
got your
and
professional, you got your QTS.
I got
Yeah.
my QTS. Before my QTS came, I do, like I said earlier, I started making moves. I
Yeah.
started pushing out my CV. I was able to package my CV. I spiced it up. How do I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would go on Indeed. I would check
Mm-hmm.
for vacancies,
Mm-hmm.
job vacancies, teaching
Mm-hmm.
schools in the UK, and I would
Mm-hmm.
then open and view the job description. When I view
Mm-hmm.
the job description, I would take out, if not everything, I would take out like 80-90% of what is in the job description and put it
Mm-hmm.
in my CV.
Mm-hmm.
Include what I did in my own time was including my QTS that I had not gotten yet.
Wow. Wow.
So I think
Wow.
that was one thing that helped me. Of course,
That
I
was a
had a
step
lot
of
of.
faith. Mm,
Yeah, exactly. I was very
mm,
determined anyway. I keep telling people I didn't use any
mm,
agent, no agency, no
mm,
nothing. I did it all by myself. It was God.
mm, mm.
I had a
Wow.
lot of declining, a lot of unfortunately, yeah,
Mm,
your application is not successful, and I'm like, it's
mm,
not for me. There are days when I wake
mm,
up and like I sent like 20 applications. I just sent it out
mm,
20, and I back it
mm,
up with prayer. Very important prayer.
mm,
And then on
mm,
this fateful day in September,